don't rush to throw away unnecessary spare parts, materials and components, because you can make a lot of useful things from them. In this video we will show you a collection of incredible and useful DIY tools. Watch the video to the end and you'll even learn how to make carpet cleaning easier with a regular power drill. Let's go! Angle Grinder DIY Cutoff Saw. An angle grinder is a useful and versatile tool. With it you can cut metal, stone, tiles and of course grind surfaces. However, sometimes it's much easier to do these tasks with a stationary saw. But what do you do if you need to cut stainless steel pipes precisely and you don't have a saw? Well, don't worry, because garage inventors have come up with an effective solution. Here we have a DIY cutoff saw made from an angle grinder. You can create such a tool with minimal costs and just a few hours. You'll need a metal pipe, bolts and angle brackets for this. The finished structure of the saw will be a long metal pipe that serves as both the frame and the handle. Near one end, a crosspiece with two holes for attaching the angle grinder is welded. On the same side, the pipe is attached to one side of a small piece of angle iron on a movable shaft, while the other side of the angle iron is attached to either the workbench or directly to the floor in your workspace. On the opposite side of the attachment, be sure to secure a spring that allows the entire structure to return to its original position. After that, it's a matter of correctly attaching the angle grinder. By the way, you can also make a cutoff saw using an old Niva car's driveshaft. But let's move on. Tabletop Nutcracker. Next on the list is the Nutcracker. Although it may seem like a somewhat useless tool at first glance, practice proves otherwise. You see, cracking open walnuts by hand, especially in large quantities, is a time-consuming and boring task. So when you have to crack open more than one bag of nuts, to save time and effort, it's recommended to use a DIY tabletop nutcracker. To make this straightforward contraption, you can use materials you can find at a metal scrapyard. First and foremost, you'll need a base. A profiled pipe works well for this. Weld supporting legs to it, which can be made from strips of metal. Finally, on the profiled pipe, weld a nut. On the opposite side, attach a piece of metal strip bent at a 90-degree angle. The next step in making the nutcracker is creating a movable clamping mechanism with a lever. Afterward, it's just a matter of assembling the two parts together. Thread a piece of threaded rod into the nut and attach a clamping pad to the moving clamp, which can be made from a round rod. Finally, install a return spring. As you can see, your DIY nutcracker is ready for use. Compact circular saw. A circular saw can be a handy tool in any household, whether in the garage, at the cottage, or simply in a private home. It's likely you'll have some woodworking tasks to tackle at some point, and that's where this fantastic tool comes in. By the way, it's worth mentioning that the first advantage of such a mini circular saw is its ability to fit on a small table. Of course, due to its small size, you won't be able to cut large workpieces with it, but for smaller tasks, a DIY tabletop circular saw works excellently. To make this device yourself, you'll need affordable components that can be found at a metal supply store. First, a small board, 4 blocks and a couple of pieces of MDF will work to create the saw's housing. The first step is to create the base of the saw. To do this, use a profiled pipe. Attach support legs to it, which can be made from metal strips. Finally, weld a nut to the profiled pipe. On the opposite side, attach a piece of metal strip bent at a 90-degree angle. The next step is creating a movable clamping mechanism with a lever. Next, you need to make the circular saw itself. Attach the angle grinder to the top of the support platform. Underneath, secure a card jack that will allow you to adjust the blade's depth. The jack's base is attached to the base of the circular saw's frame. In the final step, install a return spring. And as you can see, your DIY mini circular saw is ready to use. Magnetic Bracelet. They say laziness is the mother of invention. Well, these incredible wristbands are a bright example of that. This wonder tool attracts screws, screwdrivers and even pliers. Also, you don't have to run to the toolbox 1,000 times. Making such a contraption is quite simple. To create this DIY gadget, you'll need old watches that may no longer work and a few neodymium magnets. First, remove the back cover of the watch. Then take out the mechanism. In the end, all that should remain is the watch case. You won't need the watch glass either. Attach the magnets to the empty space. But to prevent them from sticking to each other, you'll need to secure them with superglue. In the corners of the watch case, fill with a mixture of epoxy resin and hardener. Experienced experimenters recommend preheating the mixture to speed up the drying process. When everything is dry, all that's left is to test your magnetic bracelet. With one sweep, you can gather up screws with plastic wall plugs. It's convenient when everything you need is right at hand and you don't have to reach into pockets or containers. In general, the magnetic bracelet will save you time and, furthermore, protect your fingers from unnecessary scratches. Syringe Sprayer. When a carpenter finishes cutting out a shape, the next step is to paint their creation. That's where a syringe sprayer comes in handy. This tool is a cheap alternative to specialized spray guns. To make this practical device, you'll need a syringe. First, cut off the tip of the syringe so that the ball falls out. Then use a small blade to split the plunger into 2 equal parts. Remove the part with a spring. Next, make an oval hole in the front end of the plunger. The halves are soldered together at a 45-degree angle, and the hole in the front end is widened to fit either a number 5 or number 8 needle. Small needles are typically used for painting small areas, while larger needles are used for covering larger surfaces. The tail of the DIY sprayer is expanded into a cone to securely hold the needle in place without wobbling. A piece of wire is attached to the front end for easy centering of the needle in the nose of the plunger. After soldering the body, the protruding part of the needle is processed to be perfectly straight, after which the wire can be pulled out through a ring-shaped slot. Finally, fill a syringe with paint and you're ready to paint all the necessary parts. Pipe bender. A pipe bender or pipe bending machine is a specialized tool needed to bend pipes of various diameters and materials. It's a rather specialized piece of equipment, but there are still cases where it's vital, such as when making arches for a greenhouse in your garden or railings for a staircase. Buying a factory pipe bender is not the most budget-friendly option, especially if you only plan to use it a couple of times. Fortunately, you can make this simple but very useful tool yourself, saving both money and time. Here is how to do it and where a DIY device is effective enough for the job. To make this tool, you can use a wooden board or plywood with a thickness greater than the diameter of the bent workpiece. If you can't find a board of the suitable thickness, you can use several boards glued or screwed together. Create the contraption using a rounded template, which is then attached to a workbench or a sheet of particle board. To prevent the pipe from slipping off the wooden template during bending, make a small recess in it. You can do this using a handheld router or a regular chisel. A wooden block acting as a stopper is attached to the left side of the secured template. Insert the workpiece between the block and the template and with consistent steady pressure, press it against the outer diameter of the template. To achieve a good result, the key is to ensure that the workpiece doesn't slip off the template. It's worth noting that a homemade device will be much cheaper and it won't compromise on quality. Center finder. Now, for those who want to fine-tune their eye for detail and correctly locate the center of an object, you'll need this wonderful homemade contraption assembled from simple everyday items. To make the center finder, you'll need a piece of square profile tubing, 2 bearings, bolts, nuts, and washers. First, mark the placement of the bolts on the tubing using a pencil and then a center punch. Insert a bolt with a washer and nut into each hole one by one. To prevent them from coming loose or wobbling, you can use welding or adhesive from the inside. Then mark the midpoint on the tubing, center punch it, and drill a hole for a nut. On the parallel wall of the tubing, mark and drill another hole. Next, a nut prepared with a bolt is threaded into the hole and welded. Clean up all the work, and instead of the bolt, insert a sharpened pin for scribing. So how does this tool work? Well, it's quite simple. Take a strip of metal and run the tool across it a few times, during which the pin scratches the central line. For better visibility of the line, it's recommended to insert a drill bit into the pin. This tool will help you find the center not only on a flat metal strip, but also on a curved surface. If you need to mark the central line on a wooden surface, you can replace the pin with a pencil. Apple Grater. The next equally unique invention was probably created specifically for those who have had a big apple harvest. Gardeners and summer cottage enthusiasts often wonder what to do with kilograms of ripe apples. Well, one excellent option is apple juice. However, store-bought large juicers are expensive. Moreover, to feed the fruit into a standard juicer, you need to clean and cut them beforehand. In general, you need to go through many procedures and spend quite a bit of time. A homemade grater, on the other hand, can handle whole apples. To make one, you can use the motor from a washing machine, which sets the drum in motion. The drum itself is housed in a bunker made of Bakelite plywood, where it grates the apples. After using such a juicer, all that's left is to press the resulting mass, and you'll get natural, delicious juice and almost completely dry pomace. Bench Vise Enhancement. Here is a handy hack for making your bench vise suitable for clamping any material securely, especially useful for pipes that tend to slip in the vise jaws. For this project, you'll need an angle iron, a pipe, and neodymium magnets. The contraption is straightforward, and the crafting process won't take much time. Create 2 identical pieces from the provided material, resembling 2 pipes that hold an angle iron between them. Leave enough space between the pipes for interaction with the vise. Then glue neodymium magnets using superglue and baking soda into each piece. These magnets are essential for a strong grip on the vise jaws. Once the work is complete, it's a good idea to paint the tool to make it more pleasant to work with. As you can see, these bench vise enhancements allow you to clamp pipes of any diameter securely, preventing them from moving during processing. Carpet cleaner. And lastly, a device that every one of you will appreciate. Cleaning carpets can be quite strenuous. To make this task easier, you can utilize a regular electric drill. You might wonder what connection there is between carpets and drills, but we'll answer that question right now. To create this magical apparatus, you'll need an angle grinder gearbox. Start by disassembling the gearbox and removing the motor armature from the shaft. Then place the shaft in the chuck of an electric drill. To ensure a secure connection, you'll need to make a clamp. You can craft one from a strip of metal. Afterward, cut 3 other pieces from the strip and weld them to the clamp. Next, clean the welded seams. In the metal strips that are already welded, create holes for fastening. Slide the clamp onto the drill and secure it. Then attach the strips to the angle grinder gearbox housing. Now you have a very convenient carpet cleaning machine. All that's left is to attach a brush. As you can see, with a bit of creativity, you can not only breathe new life into unwanted items, significantly transforming them, but also save a ton of money. That's all for now. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and see you next time.